Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. It's Shochu'sday again, wherever you are in the world. Kanpai. Christopher and Stephen coming straight at you from various parts of Japan. A place that, if it's not on your bucket list to visit, it should be. And today we are going to be talking about some of our recent activities across the country. But before we get into that, Stephen, how you doing?
Doing well. Uh, it is cold and rainy in Fukuoka, so I'm happy to be bundled up at home and talking to you instead of out trying to find a way to work. So
Trying
it's
to chase that paper.
yeah.
I have an announcement. I'm getting a new toilet today.
Are you? Oh,
Yeah, so
that's
I'm
exciting.
all excited.
That's very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this for a long time, and it was always just the toilet area needs to be. Okay, Mark's got Hojicha. Nice choice. That's a good choice.
Yeah.
And some in Japan, and I don't know if this is true for most people in the United States, but our toilets generally, at least if you live in an apartment that's a shoebox and a half in size or larger, then the toilet room is separate from the rest of what we call the mizumawari, or the water area, which would be the bath and the sink, and probably where your laundry machine is as well. So it's this little room by itself, and it's fine, but the toilet itself, with its heated toilet seat and all the other stuff that goes with it, the bum washer and everything, it's just it's not working as well as it used to. And even the flush mechanism, which has, like, big flush and small flush thing, the small flush chain inside of it just disconnected, and we tried to reconnect it, but one of the little bits in the chain busted, so it
Yeah.
wasn't long enough to reconnect, and we could have done it with like a paper clip or something, but it's like, maybe this is a sign. So we have this, we're bringing in a crew to kind of redo that whole small room, and it really is the size of a narrow walk-in closet,
Hmm.
like in most people's homes, I think.
Sure.
So, but that's starting at 11, so we can't go too late here because a guy with a toilet's gonna show up probably sometime between 10:30 and 11.
All right. Well, that's exciting. I, that's a very important room in any home, and
Hmm.
I do. My only comment on that is I think Japan's incredibly civilized to keep the toilet away from the shower and the
Yeah,
bath.
yeah.
Like,
The first
you know,
time I ever experienced this was probably in a couple of places that I stayed in Europe over the
hmm.
years. I was like, this makes a lot of sense. I like
Yep,
this. And then,
yep,
yeah, of course, moved to Korea, and then over to here, and it, got it more other ways, other variations on that theme, and I love it.
yep, yep. I'm just a comment on Mark drinking hojicha. That's because he's actually here in Fukuoka, and I'll be seeing him later today,
Hey,
uh,
Mark.
which which will be an appropriate time to enjoy some shochu. Mark, I'll text you later about what time and where we're gonna go. I got some ideas, as I always do. Should
Yeah.
be fun. Be good to see you again. Cool. Yeah, I'm not installing any toilet. This is a rental, so I'm not gonna do any renovations that I don't have to. Um,
Yeah.
but
Smart.
yeah, it's always, as a homeowner, I know that you gotta kind of keep up with those sorts of things and
Yeah, we just redid the hot water tank, and yeah, next, who knows what's next? I'm sure there's about 6 million other things. We got to redo the circulation, the exhaust circulation in this place probably within the next 5 years, and that's not going to be cheap either. But hey,
yeah.
you know,
But I mean, as long as I mean, at least you're in an apartment building, so you don't have to worry about a yard or a roof or you know things
yeah,
like that.
that's true. That's
Yeah,
very true.
yeah,
I mean,
because
we
there's
pay for the upkeep of the entire
sure,
place with the maintenance fees, but yeah, it's not on us to sort it out.
yeah, cool. All right, well
Hmm.
let's jump in. We got to get you for your toilet appointment.
So the main of oh wait, no, booze news I guess is first.
Yep.
The booze news, I guess, following up on an announcement last week about the Japanese fest. I did go on Sunday. It was December 17th and 18th, and I went to the show for both of the sessions, morning and afternoon, and it was packed. A really good attendance. It felt very much like the whiskey festival, the last one at Belle Salle. in Takadanobaba that I went to back in December of 2019, which was also very, very, rambunctious. That was a true whiskey fest with a little bit of, I guess there was a little bit of gin there too at that time. This time there was a lot more gin. There was some shochu and some awamori, and there were lots of liqueurs being presented and that sort of thing. It was good. It was a lot of fun. I was very fortunate to be able to help behind the table of Wakashio Distillery. Yosuke Kamimura and his partner in crime, Mr. Yoshi, they invited me behind, and I got to pour their shibushi gin as well as their strawberry and watermelon kind of liqueur eau de vie. They're kind of like eau de vie, I guess.
Really?
And so that was fun. It was good education for me. And and love both of their gins that they currently have, and as do I. And these other spirits that they were pouring, which they label as F spirits, which is very easy to remember. And I can't remember. F refers to fruit. I'm not sure. Cucumber. I'm not sure if that qualifies, but that was cool. There was in the morning session they brought up all of the people that were related to shochu and awamori production for a big talk. And of course, that involved Shinsaku Kuroki from Kuroki Honten and Osuzuyama Joryu-jo. That involved Mr. Komasa from Kanosuke and Komasa Distillery over in Hioki, or up towards where you make shochu every fall at Yamato Zakura. And it was good. It was basically a 101. It was surprisingly 101 in terms of what they were talking about. I was like,
Sure.
wow, you have to explain this stuff to people here too. So I was like, you guys understand what we're trying to do, because you're still having to educate the drinking masses over here on how shochu is distinct from other things made in the country. So that was kind of funny. I had a chuckle.
That might be because that was organized by a whiskey festival group, right? So
probably
maybe they assume that their drinkers may not actually know a lot about it, and that's interesting. It's the first time I've, at least in my recent memory anyway, where you've got actually a combined festival where you're not just doing Western spirits or just doing Japanese spirits. You're mashing them together and letting them all play in the same room, and I think that's really fun and interesting for consumers, right? That you can actually walk around at different tables and taste different examples. And then you've got, as you mentioned, Wakashio, they do a little bit of both, where obviously they make very traditional shochu, and yet they're making gin and these F spirits.
F spirits. Yeah, one of them is a strawberry and cardamom spirit that's a shochu, sweet potato shochu base. They take the spirit, they macerate the strawberries, fresh strawberries, also the cardamom in it, and then they redistill it a second time. And it's really interesting. A lot of people don't realize this or expect it, but a lot of strawberry notes can often sit very kindly alongside sweet potato notes. It's really interesting. It works quite often, and sometimes when I'm doing a tasting, I will notice strawberry on the nose of a sweet potato shochu. Not frequently, but it does happen.
Right. Sure.
The other one is cucumber and lavender, made in the same way. They both are bottled at 37% ABV.
Okay.
They're very interesting, and they sold quite a number of bottles of them from the table during the show.
So you can actually buy things and take them home.
Yep,
cool.
and everybody, not everybody, but like lots of people bought at least one bottle somewhere. And of course, when the doors opened, everybody just ran over to Chichibu Distillery.
Of course.
Right, and so right from the start, there's a long ass line there for people to get in. I think they were pouring. I didn't go to check, but they were pouring paid for little sips of things. They might have had a couple of bottles that they were letting go of, and then Kanosuke was there, and of course Kuroki-san's new whiskey distillery was there, as were a bunch of other ones that I had never heard of before. There were some imports. There was like Kinobi was there. And then one thing that I thought was really well done was Shochu Next, which is
Mm-hmm.
originally an online publication, and I feel like they're getting in. They've got their kind of fingers in a lot of pies, but Shochu Next has done a really good job since late 2020 of telling these stories of these people, these places, and the processes of Japan's indigenous spirits culture. And they had a blind tasting
Mm.
where it was a contest and you could get a prize, or you had a shot at a prize if you did well on it. It was six blind bottles. They put the bottles out there not for you to taste, just for you to see.
Mm-hmm.
And then they gave you a card, and there were, if memory serves, and I have a photo of the card, but there were two sweet potato, two sweet potato, rice, barley, kokuto sugar, and then also a goma, a sesame shochu.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And you didn't have a chance to taste them before, but they had some light tasting notes on the side of each of them, and they were like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you got a little tray with 6 clear cups with little colored stickers on them,
Okay.
and you had to match the color to the number based on that thing. And so it was one of the harder ones I've ever done. It was like you had done those blind tastings at, for instance, my Jipangu Japan events
Sure.
at the FCCJ way back when, right? And it wasn't hard. 1, 2, 3, 4. We had 4 different types, and it was so obvious, right?
Right.
But in this one, there were 2 sweet potatoes side by side, and then there was a rice and a barley that at first blush were like, those are annoyingly similar. And then, but once you got in there and you thought about it, first of all, the sesame was like a dead giveaway. If you've ever smelled sesame shochu before, you're like, oh, that one's easy. That's number 6.
Yeah.
And then the trick was to tell the difference between the 2 sweet potato.
Mm-hmm.
The kokuto wasn't that hard once it aired out a little bit. And then it was just the rice and the barley, which one was toastier. So that was pretty good. And then, of course, even if you do well, you still have a grab box to see if you have a chance at something I whiffed. So, but anyway,
at least
sorry.
you got a chance at the grab box.
I did have a chance at something. I don't know what that was exactly.
That
but
sounds fun. I'd love to attend next year if they do it again. That sounds great.
yeah, it was. I hope they will have more shochu in Awamori. And no disrespect to the companies that were there, but they were all like gigantic companies. So
Right. Yeah. Well, they can afford that sort of promotion.
yeah. Even, I mean, and more importantly, they can afford that at the last minute. Like
Right.
they could. They're the type of people you can call on the phone in November and say, "Hey, we have a table open. Do you want it?" And they'll be like, "Yeah, we got people to do that." And what? It's only a couple $4,000 for the table. No problem. And so, but smaller and medium-sized companies won't have the people to do that. And then
Right.
the idea of the hotel room and all the logistics and everything at the last minute, and they just don't have the budget for it. So,
Yeah. And,
anywho,
I got one other business if
shoot.
we got a moment. This was pretty cool. I'm gonna share my screen. You guys, I'm sure, know and love. I don't think we talked about this last week. I think this is newer. You guys know and love Punch Drink, and they have their favorite bottles to gift and receive. This is from the Punch Drink staff. Different alcohols that they suggest as holiday gifts, and you might recognize something right over here.
I do.
Whenever I saw these lists in the past, I was like, oh, come on, there's such great shochu. Why don't you ever recommend some? And sure enough, this year, we've got, there it is, Mahoko Sweet Potato Shochu.
Fantastic.
Was recommended by Brian Evans, the bar director at Sunday Hospitality. He said it works well in an Alaska cocktail. And I actually had been thinking about making an Alaska cocktail my Christmas drink this year, and I was going to use a different sweet potato shochu. I was going to use Goro, which is a more earthy, deeper one, which I thought would play well with the chartreuse. But Mahoko's wonderful. It's an absolutely gorgeous sweet potato shochu, and it's exciting to see it get some recognition. And incidental to that, our next podcast episode, which will come out hopefully later this week or very, very early next week, I may end up having 2 episodes drop next week, is a profile of the Furusawa Distillery which is the makers of Mahoko. When we talk about that brand, we've already recorded, it's just being edited now. We also interviewed Furusawa-san, and so
Yeah.
their second attempt, I guess, at dropping a little bit of Japanese into the podcast. Of course, we'll have it translated. We got Teresa Matsura from Uncanny Japan is going to do the voiceover work for Furusawa-san. But it'll be a fun episode. I was quite happy with how it came out preliminarily, and then once Rich does his magic and gets it all cut together, I'm sure it's going to be even better.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
thought that was very cool that Furusawa made the gift list. You often see Japanese whiskeys on these lists, but you don't normally see shochu. So that's a step forward. Things are happening.
Thank you, Brian Evans.
Yeah,
And thank
absolutely.
you, Punch Magazine. Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. Let's see. Banners moving to the main event. Are we not? Look at this.
Yeah. So the reason I couldn't go visit and join you at Japanese Fest uh, in Tokyo this past weekend was because on Sunday I had to head down to Kagoshima because I had a meeting with Manzen Distillery on Monday morning. I was traveling with a friend of mine, Tom Downey, who you've met, and he's down here in Kyushu doing research on the local shokunin or craftspeople.
Yeah.
And he and I were out for drinks in Fukuoka, and he was like, I would love to visit Manzen after I took him to Sunkujira, the legendary shochu bar.
Sure.
And they
As you should.
and they poured us the 2009 vintage of Manazuru out of the 18-liter demijohn,
Yeah.
and he was hooked. He decided he needed to visit, so we arranged the trip. Manzen agreed. They had finished production for the year. Normally they don't really like visitors this time of year because they're busy making shochu, but they had just wrapped up a week or so before, and we went down and we got to spend some time with the father, the patriarch of the family who restarted the distillery. The story's in my shochu chapter in my book about sort of the tragic history of the distillery and its rebirth. But I learned so much more on this visit about them, and I'll save a lot of that intel or that information for probably a pretty near future Japan Distilled podcast episode about the Manzen
Profile
distillery.
episode on them. Yeah.
Yeah, going into the season 3, we're not going to do only distillery profiles. We're going to start peppering those into the programming for the podcast. And I think eventually what we're going to do is we're going to start isolating on specific brands.
Mm-hmm.
We've just been using these first few seasons to try to get things, get everybody up to speed and lay the foundation, and then we can dive in deep going forward. But really good to see those guys. They've got a wonderful liquor store in Kokubu. And it's a pretty short walk from the train station. So if you have a chance to visit, go to the Manzen Saketen. And the older brother Naoyuki actually works the shop. He's a sommelier, and he and his father choose a lot of the alcohol, or I guess all of the alcohol that they serve, and they have relationships with incredible makers around Japan and around the world. They've got rare sake, they've got rare shochu, and it's funny, they don't usually display their own stuff. They're very sensitive to the fact that they are competitors, so they might sell one brand of their own products, but they don't have anything on display other than that one brand.
Yeah.
And then they'll have 6 expressions from Kokubu Distillery or Nakamura
Yeah.
or Yamato Zakura.
Yeah. What people who are technically rivals
Exactly.
in the sweet potato shochu space, and as we probably discussed before on this live stream and on the podcast, they don't always get along very well. They don't play as a team, and that's always a challenge for us trying to bring these spirits to new audiences. So it's great to see that Manzen is so selfless and so humble about that, and understanding that as the proprietor of a liquor store, you have other sensibilities that you have to be cognizant of.
Yeah, and the tragedy was that Manzen, so the current Manzen president, his father died when he was only 10 years old, and that left nobody to run the distillery, so they had to shut it down, which meant that the liquor store is what kept the family solvent. It's what kept a roof over their heads. for decades.
Yeah.
And when they decided to revive that shochu making license and build a new distillery up in the Kirishima Mountains, they they were completely aware of the fact that it was the support of all those other makers that had allowed them to survive. So they couldn't uh, just start selling their own stuff. So
Right.
it's so much different than when you go to another distillery's shop and they only sell their own stuff, and maybe
Uh-huh.
the sake from the brewery down the street or something like that. But it's mostly their own products. And Manzen's the complete opposite. And of course, you've been up to the distillery. It's hard to get to. It's on a very,
That's an
very narrow road.
that's an understatement of the year.
Yeah, I drive a mid-sized car here in Japan, and I'm not sure it would fit up those roads. I don't even want to try. They're super narrow. They use a K truck to get product in and out.
And they
It's a
don't really
little
need
bit
anything
nuts.
bigger than that,
Yeah,
honestly, considering the amount that they make.
yeah. They make very, very limited production, sweet potato only. White, black, and yellow koji. They always use the same potatoes. It turns out the potatoes come from farms that are owned and operated uh, by farmers who went to like elementary school with Manzen
This
Senior.
That's hilarious. Love it.
So it's very, very local and very just really wonderful, wonderful place. And then I was really looking forward to some nice Kagoshima black pork, kurobuta,
Yeah.
for lunch. President offered to take us to lunch, and then he took us to uh, Nabeshima chain yakiniku restaurant. So we didn't get the Kagoshima black pork, which is what I'd had with him the last time I'd had lunch with him.
Crap.
Yeah,
Come
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Mr.
Hey,
Downey's in the room.
yeah. But when I think President Manzen gets what President Manzen wants. I think he was
Sure.
craving yakiniku. But really, really fun visit. And this is the thing, and I don't think I really realized it, but every time you visit a distillery, you learn more.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not it's not a one-time thing, right? Oh, I've been there, right?
No,
That should
it's
never be the answer.
no, no.
It should
You
be
you
when
learn
can we
so
go?
much. Like you actually don't start to learn really all that much at all until like the fourth, fifth, half dozen times you go there, and then you think about the difference between going to an izakaya for the first time versus going to an izakaya for the fifth or sixth time,
Hmm.
this season, or maybe this year even. They're gonna remember you. They're gonna be like, this guy likes us, and I
Yes.
think we like him, and let's make sure that we're good to this person, and that
Yep.
that can often equal information. That
Yeah.
can mean depth of explanation. So
Hmm.
it's always worth another visit, and yeah, you do. No matter how many times you go back there.
Hmm.
I've been to Yamato Zakura mostly with you, sometimes without you, probably a good 18, 19, 20 times now. And I still learn new stuff when I'm there. And I hear
Hmm.
you talk about it all the time, right?
Yep.
So I feel like I've been there way more than that. So
For
yeah,
sure.
it's absolutely the education it's kind of like compounding interest, really.
Yeah, no doubt. It's and I hadn't seen those guys in a long time. I think I might have been into their shop since COVID started, but I hadn't been up to the distillery in years. But it's
Yeah.
it's a hike. It's a good 20-30 minute drive up into the mountains. Um, so because I think the last time we were in Kokubu together, we were with Pablo and your friend from Tokyo, and we visited Nakamura.
That's right.
And
That's right.
yeah,
That was nearly a year ago.
yeah, yeah. But we didn't stop by the Manzen distillery that time.
No,
So
we did not. Not that
yeah,
time.
so yeah, as things open up again, I think there's going to be more opportunities to spend time with them, and they're just such a lovely family in every way.
Mm-hmm.
And Manzen Senior is just so thoughtful, and his boys are so passionate and dedicated to what they're doing. It's just
Yeah.
they really are a model of what these craftspeople, the multi-generational family-run craftspeople, are like in
Yeah.
Japan. And we
Yep.
hope in a future podcast episode to bring you much more information about them and share some photos and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, no,
Good. Very,
really,
very cool.
yeah, really, really much needed visit. I almost didn't go. I was gonna send Tom down on his own and have Pablo show him around, and Pablo came with us and was our chauffeur, and
Mm.
we had a wonderful time. We had dinner with Pablo the night before. We watched the World Cup final at the little standing bar down the street from
Oh, so he
Yokoban.
stayed in the city, or?
Well, he was planning on going home for
Uh-huh.
last train, and then we found a place to watch the World Cup final, and he was like, "Well, if I have a chance to watch the
Screw
World Cup
this.
final,
Yeah.
with a bunch of soccer fans drinking shochu, and that little standing bar doesn't really have much shochu. He's got like a few Komasa products and a couple of
Hanakuma?
yeah, not really much
Yeah, you're right. It's
too
it's
great.
very
But
yeah.
we had Itdon earlier in the evening at Ishizue, and
Okay.
Pablo spotted the box up on the top shelf, and
Oh.
I guess a bunch of really good shochu was gifted to the master when he opened the shop, and he'd never opened any of them.
Oh wow.
It was a 900 ml, the small bottle, and I think we finished it between me, him, Dana, and a couple other customers.
Wow.
So that was
That must
that
have
was
been
a
nuts.
yeah. And then I think, and then it went to extra time, of course, and so that match finished like 3:30 in the morning. And then when I was leaving to go back to my hotel, because I was foolish enough to decide to stay by the station instead of in Tenmonkan, I couldn't find a taxi. Fortunately, Pablo did. Pablo taxied home back up to Ida, but I ended up having a 20-minute walk back to the station.
Oh crap. All right,
So I got to
sobered
bed
you
about
up a little bit.
four. Yep, got to bed about 4 o'clock, and then our Manzen appointment was 11. So Pablo was picking us up at 10. So I had to be up around 9:30. It was sleep
That's
deprived.
full on. It's
Yep,
full
it
on.
was. I felt 25 again, I think.
Nice.
The next day I
Uh,
didn't.
God. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's only so many times you can do that in a calendar year.
Yeah, and
Um,
but how would the chance to watch the World Cup in a standing bar in Kagoshima City,
the final?
you
Yeah,
just
no,
yeah,
that's not.
just
You're not going to get that
and
chance again.
it was legit, I think, the best World Cup final in
So
history.
yeah,
France was down 2-0 with 10 minutes to go, scored twice to tie it. They go to extra time. Both teams score in extra time to go to penalty kicks. And the French player scored all three goals
yep,
to win and he won the Golden Boot. He became the top scorer in the tournament, passing Messi, who had scored earlier in the match, to take the lead.
twice.
And yep, and then they lost. So they could have been the first team to be defending champions in to win back to back in like
Yeah,
60
right,
years,
right.
and then they lose in that fashion. It was just a tremendous, tremendous game. Sorry for
Oh
soccer
wow.
chat. This is still Shochu'sday.
It's all right. Hey, let me bring it back to I've got an announcement that I meant to mention in Booze News, but I'll put it as a ticker here at the bottom.
Oh yes.
Um, Japan Distilled is very happy to announce that we're supporting the revival of a pretty epic party in Tokyo every Hanami season. In usually in March, I think maybe once it happened in early April, but we're back to March 26th, a Sunday, and it is co-hosted by our friend Mac Salmon over at Maction Planet and at Kanpai Planet. Kanpai Planet is the sponsor, and basically what it is Mac and I go out there. We reserve a chunk of Yoyogi Park on that Sunday morning, and then ticketed folks will arrive around 11, stay till probably 4. Baird Beer will have draft beer, a couple of beers on tap for ticketed customers, and I will have a little shochu bar at Shochu and Awamori where I'll be pouring some pretty wild stuff, some rare stuff. And so you need to get to PTix soon. PTix has early bird tickets, which are available through December 31st, 11:59 p.m. on the 31st, Japan Standard Time, before it switches to standard tickets, and the prices go up. So we've already got 30 people signed up, which is
Yeah.
we're way ahead of the past. So in the past, I think we usually average 30 to 40 guests, and this year I think it's going to be a bigger party. So we're
Sounds like
looking
it.
forward to it, and I promise to have some oddball shochu with me and awamori that you really can't find unless you go out there booze hunting like we do.
You
So
should probably have a couple cases of OS1 supporting that table, I think.
yeah, I'll call up. What is? I got a
Otsuka?
bottle here.
That's a
Yeah, right.
that's an Otsuka brand.
Otsuka Seiyaku. Yeah, I really should.
They should
Right.
help sponsor.
Yep.
This is
I
yeah.
don't
It's
disagree.
the oral rehydration solution that's quite vital to
Yeah,
day
it's this guy
drinking.
right here. This is where's the this is not a paid promotion thing.
Right?
This is
Yeah.
not a
This is
paid promotion. It should be. We'd be happy to be sponsored by these guys because you and I swear by it. But
yeah
OS1,
yeah.
yeah,
It's
only
basically
sold in.
it's a sugar-free Gatorade almost, but it's only available in drugstores, right?
Yeah, they quite wisely limit it to health related facilities. There, I have seen it in a single. I took a photo of it actually. I have seen it in a vending machine, but the vending machine was inside a hospital. So
Okay.
that's as kind
Yeah.
of mainstream as it goes. They're very
Yeah.
wise to limit it to they
I
limit the
think
places where you can get it.
I saw it in a vending machine out in front of a pharmacy. So the pharmacy was closed, but the vending machine was still selling the OS one.
That's pretty clutch. I
Yeah.
wish the places over here had that. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move on to just because we're at the 30-minute mark.
Sure.
How about newly opened slash bottle kill if you have
Yeah. I
anything?
got I got a very, very freshly newly opened. In fact, this has been open less than 12 hours. Uh, this is hard to read because of the it's Hitotoki Towa. Am I reading that right? No, Towa Hitotoki. They do that sometimes. They switch the kanji to the opposite reading. So Towa no Hitotoki. And
Uh
this is a
huh.
10-year-old Koshu Genshu from Komatsu. We talked about Komatsu
Yeah.
a
Okay.
couple of weeks ago. Um, so this is their rice shochu that's been aged for 10 years in an enamel-lined tank and bottled at proof. And it's vacuum distilled. And this is probably the most striking example of if you were drinking a 10-year-old rice shochu that had been atmospherically distilled
Uh huh.
and you drink it alongside this, they could not be more different because
Oh yeah.
your
You're right.
at that point your rice shochu, the atmospheric distilled rice shochu would have started to get vanilla and caramel and almost like an aged awamori in a lot of
Yeah.
respects.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And this does not. This has that. I use the word musty often, and I think that evokes different things for different people. It tastes like grandma's attic smelled, like the dusty, covered, unused furniture and detritus of decades of living in a house, in that room that nobody goes into anymore unless the grandkids come over to play.
Right.
And that's kind of almost what these vacuum distilled rice shochus embody. I think if I aerated it properly, it might open up a little bit, but I just don't think there's much there for it to play with because all of those really rich, lush compounds stayed in the still, right? The stuff that would give it so much character just don't come through.
Yeah.
Um,
Gotcha.
and he does have what I think he told his 20 or 30-year-old uh, rice shochu sitting in tanks, which I'd love to try. I'd like to see what happens to this if the evolution of the age, if it changes at all. But yeah, it's just very light, even though it's 35% alcohol.
Yeah.
Actually smells a little better this morning than it tasted last night. So maybe it'll evolve a little bit now that there's some air in the bottle. I'll give you guys an update on what it's doing.
That'll be the bottle kill, right? My newly opened is Goki from Morinokura
Oh
in
yeah, nice.
Fukuoka.
Yep.
And it's a barley shochu, 100% barley, a lot of banana on the nose, a
Hmm.
little bit of sweet bread, and it's nice. Very easy, Northern Kyushu, 100% barley style. Kind of like it.
Yeah, I think I've
Um,
got the red label of that in my closet. It's in
oh,
my
okay.
soon to open uh, box.
It's a different, it's a different folder, but okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, cool. Let's see.
Yeah,
Newly open. I think we got through it today, didn't we?
we did. Yeah. Yeah, Mark, I'll text you in a little bit, and we'll figure out our plans. And
Everybody
unfortunately,
else who's
as I
out
said,
there
it's raining here.
commenting today, the comment section was alive. Thank you very much, Chris and Mark in particular. Everybody else who's out there who watches, especially on in the archives where we get uh, a fortunately people asking questions. Speaking of questions, if you have any questions for episode number 50 of the Japan Distilled podcast, then please, it's the kind of an Ask Us Anything episode. So, whatever it is related to Japanese spirits, or to, really, if you wanted to, you could ask about Steven and myself. But fire away. You got a couple more days before we record that ep, and then you'll have to hold your fire for another venue. But let us know. Hit us up, DM us, whatever, and we'll include the most interesting, most thought-provoking, most useful questions during that episode.
That's right.
All right.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody.
We got it. Yeah. So
thank you, Christopher.
Thank you, Steven, and thank you. Yeah. I didn't think to commemorate the last time I sat on it, because that was going to be the last time of
you got a few minutes.
Time. Yeah, that's right. I can go give it the proper business. All right. So we'll talk to you guys again next week. It's going to be the last Shochu'sday of 2022 coming up next week. Same time, same place. From both of us here in Japan to all of you out there all around the world, a very hearty and heartfelt Kanpai.
Kanpai.